안녕하세요. 저는 소소입니다. 감사합니다. Red Velvet 듣고 있어요. I'm going to check out Be Natural by Red Velvet. It's my understanding, well, first of all, this is from when the group was a four-piece. So before they had 5 members. And also featuring Taeyong from NCT. And this is also, it's a remake of another earlier group's song. But when Red Velvet did this version of the song, this was their first velvet side concept, like when they were going for the velvet side. So, and I've been listening to Red Velvet for a while, and most of the stuff that I've heard really falls under the red side. Some stuff is probably, like Bad Boy. That's probably, it's a little velvet. You know what I mean? It's just definitely got some velvet in there for sure. Although, because the red stuff seems to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more up tempo. So things like Russian Roulette, Peekaboo, things like that. So seem very red side. And then, but this should be a good example of like something that was really leaning into the velvet side. So let's check this out.
보여지는 풍경들과 느낄 수가 있는 모든 것 아이처럼 웃는 얼굴 가끔씩 내 작은 방에 옮겨놓고 싶은 거 매일 아침 꿈에서 내일 같은 곳에서 그댈 만날 수 있어 날아갈 수도 있어 문득 난 잠에서 깨어나 창문을 열어두고 기분 좋은 상상에 빠져있네 나와 같은 세상과 나를 닮은 눈빛과 숲이 같은 넉넉한
System up, TY track 문을 열어 내가 들어가 첫발 닿는 순간부터 지금까지 네 곁에 있어 창문 열어 새가 날아가 지금 날 보고 웃고 있는 나도 딜 봐도 없어 몽롱하게 빠져들어 몸속 깊이 녹여 눈을 감아 난 신비를 믿니 내가 보여줄게 다 너에게 줄게 이리 가까이 와 너에게 담아줄게 그저 행복한 작은 소망과 널리 퍼져있는 꼬마 인형 단순하게 생각해보려 미련 한 번만 더 내 어릴 적 모습 보려 꿈이 현실이야 근데 꿈이야 나는 전사표야 one two
나와 같은 세상과 나를 닮은 눈빛과 숲이 같은 넉넉한 말들 따뜻하게 들려주는 목소리 또 다른 나의 모습을 찾을 수
That's a mesmerizing performance. The so very it had like a little bit of an old school feel to it, definitely. Old school R&B, lots of jazz elements in there. The trumpet sounds, the keys, like there's piano and there's organ sounds in there. Over the sort of main bass part that's going. Your bass and your percussion here, very R&B style. But with even some kind of, there was a random sounding strings sound in there, something plucked. It was early on, kind of the first sequence, a little bit dissonant, like not, very very progressive jazz feel, like a little bit, kind of, it's panned left too, right? So I'd say like it's a little bit out of left field, a little bit of a subtle distraction in there from what's going on. Vocally, yeah, okay, so I see now. The Velvet side, the vocals were very very, like, sweet and enticing and soft, but not lacking in strength either. There are some runs that rhythmically, there's some parts where they're working up to some higher notes, and there's like plenty of breath behind it. I mean, they're hitting those notes very very strongly, but there's such control that it feels so smooth and inviting, warm. It's very, and like there were some vocal lines that were, they sort of tapered off, and there was sustain. They were holding these notes, and then the next vocal line was introduced over it. So there's this layering, it's very silky. It's so consonant. There's no clashing in between these two separate lines when that happens, and it's not like, it's a significant duration we're talking about with the sustain on the line that's finishing. You can hear it ring. It's catching a certain pitch within the next chord, right? It's part of the resolution to go into the next line, the next phrase. And so it's very thoughtfully done, and it works so well. It's such a soft effect there, as far as having that sustain in those particular notes. Even the rap section too, Taeyang's part in there, it has an old school, almost hip hop type of rhythmic structure to it. So it's very well done, man. It's very well done. It has this, this a bit mature, but also a bit, it's from an earlier time. Like you can hear that. You can actually hear that in the sound. And for as impressive as the vocal performance is, the choreography in this is also like, it's a laid back song. The tempo's not crazy fast or anything, but the work, that's actually going on here, and the choreography is like, this was not easy to do. This took a while to get this down. I'm pretty sure, but it's completely just mesmerizing. It just, the camera, spins, rotating around the movements that they're doing, and visually it does this thing also where things are sort of layered, where there's one this way and one that way, and then it rotates, so they switch places, and it like everything is just sort of spinning and whirling, but you never really feel lost or anything. I mean, it's fun. It's almost like a dance. Watching this feels like a dance, right? It's just the motion, the sound, and this texture, right? This layered sort of texture that's real soft and very cool, and those little added parts in there, the jazzy parts, the trumpet sounds and the keys and the strings that sometimes feel a bit random, that it's a little bit of a distraction, and then you go, oh, what, and you go back into the groove, and it just it's actually very fun. It's really, really fun. Okay, let me see. So right away, like right from the beginning, right, it's very jazzy. Her ad lib was, parts there in the beginning. All of those notes are, there's a bit of dissonance to it. You have to follow the bass sound primarily. That's going to basically indicate what the chord is, and where she's singing. It's a very interesting interval, right? In what that chord is, and so it gives it a very almost bluesy type of feel. Like it's bluesy, it's jazzy, almost very loungy, very like it has this. It's very familiar. It's a very familiar sound. If you hear a lot of jazz music, a lot of this stuff, it's spot on. It's exactly where it should be, in other words. And then the percussion mainly is what we're getting here. There's a lot of very, it's not kick heavy. You're not getting like this intense, deep sound. It's a little bit snappier, right? There's a lot of like hits that are sort of narrow and snappy, and so it's a very, very deliberate, like specific type of color that they're going for here. It's very cool. It's very cool stuff. But I'm telling you, this choreography, this is not easy to do, man. I was watching these movements, and I'm just like, oh man, like this is intense. It feels laid back, right? It's very comfortable. But what's going on here is like some serious work, dude. Vocally, the choreo, it's like this is really difficult to do.
I'll be there for you.
Oh, So we already got the trumpet sound that's coming in, right? Again, very jazzy, but you hear that I'm like, oh man, it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. The vocal lines that they're using here. It's really cool stuff, man. It's really cool stuff.
이 맘에 있는 세상과 보여지는 풍경들과 느낄 수가 있는
Right there's some string sound that's over here. It's going tin 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 tin, and it's so out of left field. Like it almost feels like it doesn't even belong there, and it's a crazy sound to hear. Like just sort of randomly, right? She comes in with her vocal part, and you're like trying to pay attention to that because it sounds so good. And there's this thing ticking over here, ting 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 ting, and it's like, what is that? It's almost like they're the composer of this was like just trying to mess with your head a little bit, but it's fun.
모든 건 아이처럼 웃는 얼굴 가끔씩 자꾸 방에 옮겨놓고 싶은 거.
Yeah, see, so there's the trumpet sound that comes in left, right? Bum, 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 bum. Then there's a light organ sound that's panned right? And it's coming in with a pretty smooth rhythm progression. Bum, 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 bum. And then that string sound, that funky string sound comes in over here. And it was doing something that fit a little bit more because it was actually moving around the chord a little bit there. But it's, the over the bass and the percussion and then the vocal part, that's very much like the center of it. And then these other instrumental elements that are incorporated into the song, they're off in the left and the right. They're very playful. This is what makes it feel so jazzy, right? It feels like almost like improv jazz stuff. When certain they call it going for a ride, right? A jazz player will just sort of play whatever feels right, like in a moment or whatever, and it very much has that characteristic to it.
매일 아침 꿈에서 매일 같은 곳에서 그댈 만날 수 있어. Something nobody knows. Feel like heaven's eyes. 이젠 날아갈 수도 있어. 문득 난 잠에서 깨어나.
It's such a cool sequence, dude. So the harmonization on this, again, it's that signature Red Velvet harmonization that they have going on, where their voices are just so perfect together. And this is 4-part harmony again. So again, this is before they had a 5th member, but it was already there then. This harmony just fits so well. Before this, right, and I guess what we call the verse section, most of their lines were independent lines. And everybody has such good control. Everybody has such good time. They're extremely capable. Like this is showing actually a great deal of their range, a great deal of their control, their ability to apply certain techniques like vibrato, when to slide through notes. Their talent, man. It's almost like their raw talent is really on display here, and it's very, very impressive. It feels so good. It is. It's just, So I mean, I get it. I get the Velvet. I feel it. I completely feel it. I feel just totally wrapped up in it. Like I'm totally just enveloped in that soft, silky smooth type of, cool feeling, man. And it's very, very awesome. And then moving into this section when they start to harmonize, and it's always so perfect. It's so perfect. All of their voices together, the way that they stack, boom, boom, the way, like it's perfect. It's perfectly balanced. It's perfect. See, right there. The harmonization parts, right? It carried and it was sustained, and then she came in with the next part, and that note was still carrying, and it all just fits so well. And I think it's gonna happen again when her line finishes. Oh, very. So good, dude. So good. Just the chromaticism, you know, the smoothness over all of these different notes that she's hitting, and then the control, man, the vibrato, and like I said, it feels so laid back, but that's strong, man. That the vocal work that she's doing here, it's so strong, dude. The control, the vibrato, there's so much breath behind this, and it feels so soft, doesn't it? Like it feels, it's incredibly strong, but it feels just so soft and so smooth. It's so good, dude. It's so good.
봄이 시스템 up TY track TY track 문을 열어 내가 들어가 첫발 닿는 순간부터 지금까지 네 곁에 있어 창문 열어 새가 날아가 지금 날 보고 웃고 있는 나도 네 봐도 없어 몽롱하게 빠져들어 몸속 깊이 녹여 눈을 감아 난 신비를 믿니 내가 보여줄게 다.
Okay, see those rhythms right there. Dun, 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 dun. That's it's very old school. It's very old. It feels like a throwback, dude. Some 90s hip hop stuff, man. It has a very somehow you know, I get that the song was written earlier, right, from an earlier group, so it's in its time, but the elements all just seem to work so well, dude. You know, rhythmically, that's very important to making this actually work. And there's a lot of jazz, you know, incorporated even into something like this, and it goes back to when the song was originally written. Of course, this is all has a little bit of a throwback type of quality to it, but it works so well, dude. And this performance, you know, like they're doing such a good job of it, man. Like such a good job. If I'm thinking in like what the other, I think the other earlier group was called SES, if I remember reading that correctly, and they probably have to be just really like, you gotta love it. Like if you're that other group and then you hear this and you hear them perform this, your heart has to be like singing because this is so good. Like it's so good.
너에게 줄게 이리 가까이 와 너에게 담아줄게 그저 행복한 작은 소망 널리 퍼져 있는 꼬마 인형 단순하게 생각해보려 미련 한 번만 더 내 어릴 적 모습 보려 꿈이 현실이야 근데 꿈이야 나는 전사표야 one yeah
The harmonies. Oh. Again, there they just, and you know, like they harmonize and they sound so good together, but there are parts when you have more than one voice, right, and they have to use a vibrato, and their vibrato is completely synced up. One's not, you know, faster than the other. I mean, they're controlled. For it to line up so perfectly, man, that there's no dissonance, no, you know, there's no clashing in terms of, because the timing or like it's all so perfectly done, man. It's just incredible. And they did this layering again where you had that one note that was sustaining as the next line started, and it's all so smooth, man. It's so smooth. It's ridiculous.
We gonna get to become one. Just holding you forever in my mind. 내게 다른 어지럽힌 목소리. 또 다른 나의 모습을 찾을 수 있는 오직한 사랑.
Everything's a throwback sound, dude. It's such a throwback sound, but it's so well done, dude. this is a completely mesmerizing performance, man. This like, I mean, like, wow, this is, if this is Velvet Side, then oh man, dude, it's like, it's intoxicating almost. It's you know, like you just get so caught up in it, and as a, you know, it's such a laid back song, right? Like the tempo and everything, it's very laid back, but there's some serious work that's going on here, dude. Vocally, it's just, this is not easy to perform. They make it look easy. They make it sound very comfortable, but this is a very, very high level of talent to be able to pull this off, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's perfect. It's, yeah, that's nuts. It's insane. And then to think that, you know, they eventually add another member to this, and you know, they only get better. They don't. It's nuts, dude. It's Red Velvet is just incredibly good, man. Incredibly talented, and everything on this, from the vocals to the choreography, this stuff is intense, man. It looks real cool, man. It feels like, oh, just laid back. Dude, they're just having a groove. It's, you know, it makes you feel very comfortable. This silky, smooth sort of texture of this song, you know, it really does wrap you up, and it just, you know, it feels a bit dancey, a bit swimmy, and so you think, it almost lulls you into this belief that what's happening here is pretty laid back and pretty easy, but it isn't, man. It isn't. Nothing about this was like was on the easy difficulty level. Nothing about this was on easy mode. This is all like, you know, high tier stuff, man. Like all of it. And man, it's very impressive. It's very impressive. I've never not been impressed by Red Velvet, but it just, like, you know, the Red Side stuff, it's also fun, you know, like it's a really good time, you know, and but this is just like raw talent on display. It's incredible. It's a very cool song, man. It's very cool. Like I said, it's a bit of a throwback, but the composition on this is very jazzy. You know, it's R&B with some hip hop elements in there, especially once you get to the rap section. But feels like a jazz head wrote this. You know what I mean? Like somebody who come up in jazz and used to perform jazz music, and it was like, oh, well, we need to have this, we want an R&B type of a song, you know, can you do that? So, oh yeah, I'll do that. But the instrumentation, even the vocal lines themselves, so much jazz infused, right, in this song. It's very, very cool though, man. Very, very cool. I just I'm really, you know, want to hear more than of the Velvet Side, because this is you know, this is absolutely gorgeous stuff here, man. Everything about this is just so beautiful, man. And it's, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's Red Velvet. It's, you know what I mean, like it's very familiar because it is Red Velvet. Like I said, the harmonies, that perfect, beautiful harmonization is there. Just the style, just the delivery, just the approach is, you know, such a contrast to what you would call the red side stuff. And it's incredible, man. It's incredible stuff, dude. It's oh man, it feels good. It feels really good just to listen to this. Just this absolute, beautiful sounds that they're making, and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel good. Not hyped, not like but you actually very comfortable, very cool, very relaxed, very like just put you in a good place. But that was incredible, man. That was incredible. And I'm gonna have to go back and find the original version too, the original song, just to give it a listen. You know what I mean? Just out of curiosity, just to see what the original was. And yeah, you gotta, if I'm that group, if I'm the original writer, even the original composer, the original production and all that, when you see this and you hear this, you gotta be like ecstatic. You gotta be like, wow, this is so incredible to hear this done this way, because they're just too good, man. They're insanely talented. And but that was very cool stuff, to see an early Velvet side, to hear it. Just, yeah, Red Velvet, they're on another level. They're perfect, when they do their thing, man. When Red Velvet does their thing, it's so perfect always. But that's very, very cool stuff, man. Red Velvet, Be Natural, Velvet Side it's very good stuff, man. It's very good stuff.